I know your question. The Fed reduced rates. Why are mortgage rates going up? Hang on. I'll tell you in a minute. Hey guys, it's your favorite mortgage guy, Steve here. It's Friday, and like I just said, rates come down and rates go up. So let me talk about that. Just give me a minute. I'm going to get through your questions. It's a beautiful Friday. I changed my background so you could see more behind me, and the planes are not flying today, so it's going to be awfully quiet. All right, listen, let me start with your questions here. This past week was a busy week with your questions. Now, guys, just so you know, this goes out to thousands of people. So I do get a lot of questions during the week about this. A lot of you call me and talk to me about it. Some of you just send me an email. Some of you even text me. So listen, at some point, my contacts are going to be along the side and along the bottom here. Don't forget to like my socials. So, Steve, with the rate cut, how come we're not seeing mortgage interest rates improve? I'm going to talk to you about that. Remember me telling you good news for the government is not good news for mortgages. Well, guess what? The government got some recently good news on jobless figures. I mean, it only took them 5 months to tell the truth, and now the jobless figures are coming out. But I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. So, well, actually, let me just go a little further. Also one of the things I'll tell you, that song by Rod Stewart, The First Cut is the Deepest? The deep cut, which just happened September 18th, a lot of times, and I predicted this back in August when I was telling you that we might see a nice cut, but we're going to see mortgage rates get worse. And that's exactly what's happened here. So I'll go into a little more detail with that, but I didn't want to leave you hanging. Just remember this, the Federal Reserve, they don't loan to people like me or you or the mortgage companies. They loan to big banks. They loan to industries like General Motors, Ford, Intel. They also loan to foreign countries. Hell, we give money to foreign countries. You can see that within these wars. And you know what? While I'm thinking about it, let me just say it is just heartbreaking to see what has happened. North Carolina is just right up the street. And what has happened there was called a 1,000-year flood. And it won't happen again in our lifetime. But to see that some of those towns are just literally gone, the town wiped out, is just incredible. And you know what's really disgusting? I literally saw that the federal government was giving people $750. $750 for their troubles. And I'm not going to bring up the border. I'm not going to bring up any of that stuff that's political that they talk about. But seriously, $750 is not going to get you anything. And it is just so heartbreaking that we're giving money to these countries, money to all this other stuff. And we got people in our own country that have paid taxes year after year after year. And now they get $750. It's just heartbreaking. Anyway, so remember, real estate and interest rates do not decline or increase in a straight line. It's like a roller coaster. It goes up and down and up and down. So these proposals for these tax credits, don't count on it. You're not going to get it. There's no free money out there. Hell, we just talked about this. Now, here's the good question here. I want to refinance. Is it time? 100%. You need to call me. It is time. I told you I was going to tell you when it was time. It's time. You need to call me. And here's why. You're getting all these offers, a lot of these offers. Scott, tell them again how many pennies are in a dollar.
100 pennies in a dollar, not 105.
That's right. There's not 105. There's not 110. There's 100. And every one of you that have called me that said, I got this super low rate and looked at the closing costs and they were outrageous. Why would you spend all of that money when you don't have to? That's why you need to call me. Let me give you the advice. Those of you that are in our interest rate rebound program, we're going to remove the fees for your loan. So just call me. That's all you got to do. Tell your friends, your family, your neighbors. I don't care. Have them all call me. But I will tell you this. You've heard me say, I don't care what your interest rate is. Well, now you're starting to see that because everybody that's calling me is starting to understand, yeah, you're right. I got all this equity and yeah, I got a low rate, but I'm spending thousands of dollars in debt that is non-tax deductible that I can pay off, like my $850 a month car payment, get the title to the car and have a tax deductible liability now. It's awesome. Okay. And what do I do with these refinance offers? Which this last question, ignore them and call me, period. Okay, so mortgage rates, yes, you heard me. They are ticking up. But remember what I told you before. The Federal Reserve rate does not affect your mortgage. It can, but it won't. And I also told you back in August that it was likely that bonds would jump up. My teleprompter is acting up here, so I'm going to have to do this manually. So this is what happens when markets interpret flawed news. So remember me telling you from August for 4.5 months, they gave us flawed jobless figures, and then the truth came out. Well, the flawed news is things like they use terms like inflation curving, um, or dutiful this, or whatever they say that sounds like a bunch of BS. It will be a bunch of BS. Now, the jobless figures came out today. They weren't helpful for the government. Remember me telling you, any good news for the government is not good for mortgage rates, but it's also good because the stock market went up. So your 401k went up. A lot of different things have gone up. Your wealth has gone up a little bit. Mortgage rates will come back. I'll talk about that in a second. But stay tuned because this is going to be behind us soon. This happens in every cycle. This decline in mortgage rates has stalled due to the mix of escalating geopolitical tensions, along with the natural disasters that have occurred this year. These geopolitical tensions, like in Iraq, in Ukraine, in Israel, and any place else that there's one, it's taxing our tax dollars. I mean, taxing as in costing our tax dollars. We should see a short rebound because the world's economy is going to start improving. Now, are we going to see that tomorrow? No. Do we know when the government's going to reduce rates again? Yeah. They're talking about November, December. How much? Don't know. Don't know. Can't predict that stuff. Because you know what? If I predict it, I'm going to be right or wrong 50% of the time. And an additional 50% of the time, I'm going to be right or wrong. It's going to be right in the right place and wrong in the wrong place. So I'm not going to try to predict that stuff. They're talking about a 0.25% reduction, has nothing to do with politics. Speaking of politics, guys, I'm going to tell you this. You don't have the right to complain if you're not going to vote. And you need to tell your friends that. They don't have the right to complain if you're not going to vote. I don't care who you vote for. I really don't. But if you don't vote, early voting has already started. So you can get out there and vote now. But why wouldn't you vote if you don't like what you're feeling like right now? If you don't like the fact that these last 4 or 5 years haven't been in your favor, then vote a different way. If you love the way that they are, then vote that way. I don't care how you vote, but don't complain if you're not gonna vote. But I will tell you, if you don't vote early, you're not going to vote, because if you wait to get off work at 5 o'clock, 5:30, and you try to vote and the polls close at 7, you're going to be stuck in this line and you're going to miss out. So back to the political scenario here. Politics don't play into the Federal Reserve policy. They just don't. The president cannot say, go reduce rates, because that just goes against our economic policy. But what they can do is they can instruct the Treasury to start buying rates down. Now, that's called quantitative easing. You've heard me say that. We're in a quantitative tightening right now, where basically they're selling off these Treasury bonds to recoup their coffers so that they will bring rates down more than likely after the first year. Does that mean wait? No, because here's why. According to chief economist Sam Kaler, I don't think that's how you pronounce it, of Freddie Mac, he's zooming out of the big picture and said mortgage rates have declined 1.5% in the last 12 months. Home price is growing slowly, as well as homes are sitting on the market for longer. So average market time, 27 days, depending on your market, depending on the sales price, but homes are still selling. Inventory is starting to increase. We're seeing that more over the $500,000 price range, but we're also seeing those houses sit on the market a little longer. Incomes are starting to increase. People are becoming unemployed. That's because they're paying the people who are remaining more. So yes, you're seeing incomes increase. Now, as a result, the backdrop for home buyers this fall is starting to improve and should continue through the rest of the year. What does that mean to you? That means if you're still sitting on the fence, stop it. Guys, I told you, I've been in the mortgage business for 34 years. When I got in the mortgage business, I was in my 20s. I didn't know better. I just knew the rates were 9.75%, and my boss told me go get loans. So I went and got loans. And then they went as high as 10.5%. Guess what? I didn't know any better. I went and got loans. And you know what? Here's the best part. I wrote a column for 15 years for a variety of newspapers. I wrote a book about mortgages. I was the president for the mortgage bankers for the state of Virginia. Listen, I've led a pretty decent career. The reason I tell you that, I've loaned in all kinds of economies, recessions, a pandemic, different presidential administrations. People buy houses. Don't get stuck on this. I don't want this. I can't afford that. Yes, you can. And here's the best part. I've never, ever, ever met a client that wants the highest rate and the highest payment. I get it. I don't even want that for you. But don't play around with this. Buy the freaking house, not the rate. You'll have an opportunity at some point in your life to refinance, which brings me to those of you who have these whatever 2, 3, 4, 5 rates. I don't care. You've heard me say that because every one of you that's calling to refinance right now are calling to say, Steve, you're right. It doesn't matter what the rate is because I just got $2,000 between my boat payment, my car payment, the $30,000, $40,000 in credit card debt, but I got a ton of equity. I need to refinance and start saving cash flow every month. And I want to do a renovation on my house, put a pool in, do whatever you're going to do. Guys, this is why you can't pay attention to the interest rates. There's bigger pictures there. But one of the other things is, let's talk about these jobs. So healthcare and education continues to drive employment, right? Because people went back to school. People are starting to graduate from medical schools. They're looking for jobs. Here's the thing. 25% of this makes up, or construction workers are making it up, which is really about 70% of the total is construction because we're trying to build out of this, right? Now, what does this mean? Inflation reduction, because these people are spending money. They're making more money. There's more construction workers out there. So now they're spending money to keep the stimulus going and keep it plentiful. Year over year growth in hourly earnings is up about 4%. Now, that's a bit inflationary because we saw inflation exceed that. So wages weren't growing at the rate of inflation. So where does this leave us? Again, 1 month, this is last month that I'm talking about, doesn't make a trend. This morning, the BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, put out their numbers. It was good for the government. 231,000 of the 458,000 jobs, 231,000 of the 458,000, 16 to 19-year-olds. Yeah. Guess how many 16 and 17-year-olds are buying houses? 0. They're not adults. They can't buy a house. Guess how many 19-year-olds are buying houses? Maybe I might do one a year because they're not mature enough to buy a house. That very small percentile that is, they're pretty smart about it, and they're shopping for the right house for them. But my point is, some of these numbers and these interest rates, you can't fight it. You can't argue with it. Just go buy the house. So the last thing is this. We're in fourth quarter. It's already October. Can you believe this is the first weekend of October? Here's the thing. What does all this mean? It means we're rounding third base and we're trying to get home. We'll soon start to see future declines in rates, meaning as the Fed announces further reductions, you just heard me talk about November, possibly December, and definitely 2 to 3 times next year, that when they announce these reductions, mortgage rates will soon follow. Does that mean wait? No, because you're not going to find the right house. Buy the house, not the rate, figure it out later. Now, again, I don't like to predict because I'm going to be right or wrong 50% of the time. But I'm going to tell you, in my career of 34 years, I've seen rates up here. I've seen them down here. I've seen them every place in between. And I see people buy houses. So what I'm going to tell you is this. If you're thinking about buying, if you're a fence sitter and you're going to be that conservative, you're going to chase nickels, but it's going to cost you dollars. Not putting it down because, there's 4 different types of people in the world, right? A, B, C, D. So whatever your personality is, if you're going to be conservative, you're going to be chasing that and you're not going to find the perfect house. That needle in the haystack doesn't exist in today's market. Now, 10 years ago, it did because there was a glut of houses. Now there's not. So just sit back and wait and see what comes up. But prices are starting to increase right now. When rates go down, house prices go up, both resale and new construction. So guys, I want you to remember this. I'm your favorite mortgage guy. I'm here to help. You need to tell your friends, your families, your coworkers, anybody you know that's thinking of buying, selling, refinancing, renovating, building, you need to have them call me. Let's have a meaningful conversation, especially on the refinance side. Start calling me. Let's talk about it and let's get you into that pipeline because guess what's happening? Applications are coming in. Appraisers are starting to become overwhelmed. Closing companies are starting to overwhelm, and you need to do this. Last thing I'm going to tell you, if you bought a new house and you wrote a contract and you are non-contingent because you qualify without selling your house, but you really in your mind knew you needed to sell your house, but you wanted to roll the dice, here's what I'm going to tell you. You need to pay the buyer's closing costs. Not many people have any money right now. Don't be so tight, because here's why. The equity was given to you by the market. You didn't earn that. The market has gone up so much. That is free equity. Come off a little bit of it so that you can sell your house and stop stressing out. So, having said that, here's the best part. It's October. It's October. Can you believe it? It's going to be November. It's going to be December. We're going to be into 2025 here soon. So guys, listen, I'm your favorite mortgage guy. All my social stuff, contact information, call me, text me, whatever you need. I'm here for you. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Bye now.